I've been waiting for something from my life. Lord, can you feel it coming in the air tonight? So twice, see you can wipe up that dream. No way of it. It's all getting nice.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Welcome to the Radical Republicans live show. I don't know what's going on with the music thing tonight or last week, but we're just gonna go ahead and get started. It says new design. It's this Rumble Studio. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. But yeah, that's my background right now. We're gonna get in to some stuff. Charlie Kirk's funeral was today. I know many of you watched that and was checking it out. Over 300,000 people were there. Over 300,000 people. TBB, I see you, man. What's happening? I'm gonna fix this audio thing with this music, man. I sort of hate I can't put the music up front because this new system. The old system plays the music. This one doesn't. It's really weird, man. Right? Really weird. So I hope you guys can hear me okay. Hope you guys had a great week. Actually, hope you all had a great week. And you know, it's been a tough week for a lot of people. I mean, some things going back and forth between Candace Owens and everyone else. I believe Candace, though. Honestly, I believe Candace because she's dropped receipts and you know, and she's being attacked, man. She is being attacked brutally, brutally. Hopefully, people. I don't even know. Is the funeral over, man? It was last Sunday. See, I don't do funerals. I have to be honest. I don't do funerals. The last funeral I went to was my dad's funeral. That was in 2011. 2011. I don't do funerals. Funerals and me don't agree. I tried to though, but I think that was the last one I went to. But so before I get started, because we're gonna go a different way. I was gonna, and we still may hit some of the Charlie Kirk stuff, some of the investigation stuff that don't make no sense. But what I'm gonna do tonight, because I'm tired of people in Congress that want to continue to foment the hate and the division, especially when they are not even a born U.S. citizen. So I'm gonna hit Ilhan Omar up tonight. I'm gonna hit Ilhan Omar up tonight. We're gonna talk about her. We're gonna find out who is this person that keeps talking about our country, that keeps saying that she doesn't love America, America is racist, and who is this lady? So we're gonna talk about it. You go, and if you don't know, I think you may find out some things about her tonight that you may not have known. I was gonna have Laura Worley, right? That was my schedule. She had an emergency, so she had to reschedule for next week. So next week we're gonna be talking about MK Ultra and Laura Worley. Hopefully I say that right? Worley is a MK Ultra survivor. So she was gonna come on tonight and she was gonna tell us all about MK Ultra, man. I had it all tuned up and everything, and she hit me and she said, "Man, I had a family emergency. She has to take care of some stuff." And so she'll be here next week. Hi, Susanna. I see you always right. 2020. Welcome back. I see you, Nick. And of course, Carolyn is always in the house every Sunday night. I really appreciate that. Appreciate. Oh, so you have to. Okay, it keeps freezing. Well, I don't know why it's freezing. It's just stuff happening, man. It's just really, really weird. Some people's Rumble freeze up and some don't. Just throw it in the chat if you keep freezing. Throw it up on GETTR if you're freezing, because I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, my show's been taken down a lot. So, but I hope for the most of you it's not freezing. So let me read this one sponsor real quick, and then I'll be hopefully get up to my campaign sponsors for Rumble, and I can read some of those too. Okay. But Supermassive Black Coffee has been very, very good to me, so I'm gonna continue to hit up Supermassive Black Coffee. Are you tired of the same old corporate coffee diluted and devoid of character? It is time to break free from the chains of mediocrity with Supermassive Black Coffee. Crafted from 100% organic beans, this coffee is fire roasted in a Victorian era roaster, a relic from an age when true craftsmanship thrived. This unique process allows the flames to caress each bean, unlocking bold, rich flavors with dark chocolate undertones and a smooth, smoky finish. In a time of soaring coffee prices and supply chain disruptions, Supermassive Black Coffee stands as a beacon of quality and resilience. While others compromise, this brand remains steadfast, delivering a brew that defies convention and invites coffee lovers to explore the depths of flavor and mystique. So join the rebellion against the mundane. Visit supermassiveblackcoffee.com and use code MAMBA, MAMBA, for 20% off your order. Embrace the conspiracy, sip the mystery. So I'm gonna play some clips first. I gotta play some clips of this person, and then we're going to really dig into her family, her background, and then we're going to just go from there. How about that? Cool. All right. So here's the first clip. Let me cue it up because she's vulgar. She's a vulgar piece of excrement, and and I have a clip from Raheem Kashan, but I'm not going to play that yet. Well, I am going to play it because then I'll get into it. So we got about 4 clips we're going to play first. And this is her responding, or basically, I mean, she's said a lot of stuff, but since this is, the week of Charlie Kirk's assassination, I mean, you would figure some people would just cool off and come back, and just at least just keep their mouth shut, right? If you don't have anything to say, just keep your mouth shut. AOC is another one. And they say AOC is going to run for president. I hope she does. I hope she does. So we can maybe get her out. permanently. So here we go.
To be coming out of our country. I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights, while our president is spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade. It is really shocking, and it should be a wake-up call for all Americans to say this is not the country we were born in. This is not the country we believe in. This is not the country our founding fathers imagined. And this is not the country that is supported by our Constitution, our ideals, our values. And we should all collectively be out in the streets rejecting what is taking place this week.
So I want you guys to remember that video. I'm going to play that one again before I get into that, because what she said, she actually comes across like she was born here, right? She actually comes across like she's a natural born citizen of this country. That's how she just came across. I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me about it. But I should have played that one last, but I'll hit you. I'm going to come back to that, because what she said, some things that was pretty profound, that she was born in a country with a dictator. She was born there. Okay. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to come back and play that one more time.
What I find jarring is that there are so many people willing to excuse the most reprehensible things that he said, that they agree with that they're willing to have monuments for him, that they want to create a day to honor him, and that they want to produce resolutions in the House of Congress honoring his life and legacy. It is one thing to care about his life, because obviously so many people loved him, including his children and wife. But I am not going to sit here and be judged for not wanting to honor any legacy this man has left behind. That should be in the dustbin of history, and we should hopefully move on and forget the hate that he spewed every single day.
I just think it was the video where it called him Dr. Frankenstein and said his monster shot him through the neck. I mean, obviously this is a person, and looking at this is someone who was a husband and a father, and in the days after his shocking death, that happened as a result of his views, or it happened as a result as he was sharing his views publicly with people, that people found it jarring to hear such criticism of that in the immediate aftermath. What I find jarring is that there are so many people willing to excuse the most reprehensible things that he said, that they agree with that they're willing to have monuments for him, that they want to create a day to honor him, and that they want to produce resolutions in the House of Congress honoring his life and legacy. It is one thing to care about his life, because obviously so many people loved him, including his children and wife. But I am not going to sit here and be judged for not wanting to honor any legacy this man has left behind. That should be in the dustbin of history, and we should hopefully move on and forget the hate that he spewed every single day.
Okay, so I just wanted that fresh in your minds. I'm going to play a clip from Rasheen Kassam, and then we're going to get into who Ilhan Omar is. Then I'm going to play the first clip one more time, because I want those words. Well, I'll play. You know what? I'll play Raheem's clip after I actually get into it. But I'm going to play this clip one more time, because I want you guys to really, really hear her and understand. Okay, I want you to hear her bullshit. And I can't say, I have people say, man, you should stop cursing a little bit on your show. I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you just have to, right? It just is what it is. Sometimes you just have to, because you have people like this. She should not be in Congress. She should not be representative of anyone. I mean, I put up a tweet. I don't believe that unless you're a natural born citizen in this country, I have to go back to being the president. We need a constitutional amendment to amend people serving in this country. You should have to be a natural born citizen of this country, not a refugee. And it is what it is. If you come here and you get your citizenship, fine. You're not natural born. You should not be able to hold a public office and basically make laws over people that have been born here naturally in this country. But let me play this clip one more time.
To be coming out of our country. I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights, while our president is spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade.
That would
I'm sorry,
respond to
I
an
honestly didn't mean to do that. Hold on. And you heard what she was saying, right? So now what I'm going to do, I got to find this overlay because she's she's just too much, man. I'm kind of flustered here, right? But she's just too much. So let me show you something. One thing first. Well, I'll actually get to it, but we're going to dig into the real story of Ilhan Omar. And we're not the glossy tale of a refugee turned congresswoman, right? But we're going to go deeper, the deeper truth, that the media totally ignores, especially the leftist media. And it seems like the conservative media really don't want to touch it. And I'm not sure why, but I'm going to touch it tonight. And you actually know who she is when I'm done. I mean, I knew she was a refugee. I knew where she came. I sort of knew her background, but it's just something that she really gets under my skin. And I don't let too many people get under my skin, but she does. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to dig a little bit. Let me find out who this woman really is. First of all, she was born into privilege in Somalia. Okay, understand that she was born into privilege in Somalia, part of the ruling class connected to dictator Siad Barre. She's connected to Siad Barre's regime, her family. And how she became a refugee, right? So when that regime fell, and I'm going to get into that story, but when that regime fell, families like hers weren't just simply running from the bullets. She wasn't a refugee running from bullets. She was a refugee running from accountability. So tonight we're going to trace that little journey from Mogadishu to Kenya, actually to Kenya's refugee camps, to Minneapolis politics, straight to the halls of Congress. When I'm done, we're going to be asking this question: how did someone with a background of privilege fleeing a toppled regime? And when I say regime, when you go back into her family history owned slaves in Somalia. They were part of the slave owning clans of Somalia. So someone that background privilege, flee a top regime, and end up attacking America from inside its government, because you see, she attacks America constantly from the inside. And that's why, that's why we call this show the Radical Republican Show. Raw, unfiltered, unafraid. So we're going to go. We're just going to go. So let me show you this first. Okay, let me show you a map. I'm going to start with the map. Okay. So she's from Mogadishu, but she grew up in this area of Badoa. So this is all of Somalia here. This is Ethiopia and Kenya. So she grew up in this area. Okay. Her family. So part of her clan is her family is part of the Majortine, sorry, the Majortine clan. Okay, these are the top clans in Somalia. Okay, so you see, she's part of the Darude clan. The Darude clan, which comes from the Hiwiya, however you say it, and the Daiju. Okay, so this is her family clans. They are rulers. These are the key clan families, the Confederation clans of Somalia. Let me show you the area that they control. So the Darude clan, this is the Darude clan with the Majortine, okay? This is just her family. So all of the gray area, this is what they control, the Darude clan. And then you have the Hawaii here. This is all of her family. This is all of her family. They ruled, and when I say ruled, they ruled over Somalia. Her family. Okay, so Ilhan Abdullah Omar, she was born in 1982. I'm gonna give you a little background on her in Mogadishu. Okay, now and she was the youngest of 7. Her mother died early. She was raised by from her father and her grandfather. That much is fact. Okay, that part is fact. Okay, you can go and dig that up, but that's fact. But here's what the critics point. Here's what I like to point out. This was no poor family. This was not a poor family. Through her father's line, she belonged to the Majortine subclan of the Dayrod, the same Dayrod power base that dominated Somalia under dictator. She said that she was born under dictator. She's never seen it. Bullshit. She was part of it. She was part of the dictator clan. Maybe she didn't see it as a child because she was part of it, but she was the ruling class under Siad Barre, the dictator that ruled over Somalia. The ruling class, pretty much the number one ruling class in Mogadishu, Somalia, was under the Siad Barre regime. And so you understand, okay, clan in Somalia isn't just family. Okay, it isn't just like your relatives, your cousins, your aunts and uncles. Okay, a clan in Somalia is everything. It's the government, it's privilege, it's access, and you're gonna see because of here's the thing, because of, and I'll show this later, but because of who she was and who the family was in Somalia, they were able to come to the United States and be privileged here in the United States. Okay, they have families tied, and if we understand family ties and family clans, when you're tied to the clan, it has its advantages. It has its advantages in education, jobs in civil service, and all the influence they want. Omar's father was very educated, and he worked in government and schools. They were Marxist. This was, and you go back, the Siad Barre regime was Marxist. Now you see where she get her Marxist ties from and who she is. Because her family was the ruling Marxist clan family in Somalia. And she brings that same attitude. She brings that same culture right here. And make no mistake about it. I need you guys to understand this. Make no mistake that all of the Somalians, that little Mogadishu, right? I call it little Mogadishu, but in Minnesota, right? Minneapolis, Minnesota, where most of the Somalians live here in the United States. They were put there. They were brought in to be under. This was all a plan. This was all a plan for Ilhan Omar to rule over Little Mogadishu. They brought in these refugees and they settled in Minneapolis, knowing that Ilhan Omar was there, knowing that her family was there, knowing that she was the ruling class from Somalia. And they brought in these people and put them under her to get her into Congress so they could attack America from the inside. So Somalia, the ruling class is still in Somalia, but they had to flee. But the ruling class, and you see everything that's going on in Minneapolis now. They just had this healthcare fraud, this big multi-million. You don't think she had anything to do with that? So they bring in all the refugees and do what? And become the majority. Become the majority, and they elevate her to Congress. I know I got a little ahead of myself, but you got to understand really what went on there. And it was part because our government did this. Okay. So, I know opponents argue that this was not a family, that was scraping by. And I say opponents to her, right? This is not a family that was scraping by. Be clear, this was a family in the upper tiers, the very, very top of Somali society. The ruling class, they owned slaves. And when that ruling class collapsed, when the people stood up and said, you know what, no more, General Adid stood up and they stood up and said, you know what, we're not going to be ruled by you anymore. We're not going to take all this. We're not going to be slaves anymore. Then their story took a dramatic turn. And this whole thing about you got to go back, you got to understand this. You go back to Black Hawk Down and who we were fighting against in Somalia. We were fighting against General Adid. General Adid that we were fighting against was the people that stood up against the Daru power base or Ilhan Omar's family. This is who we were fighting against. This is the Black Hawk Down story is about this. This is when the power base that was under really the control of the United States, the power base, the Daru power base, they had to get out because they were being hunted. They were being hunted by the slaves, by the people that stood up against them, and we helped them escape. We helped Ilhan Omar and the Daru power base that had enslaved people, that was ruling over people. We helped them escape to the United States under the title of refugee. Under the title refugee, we did that. They don't teach you this in school. They don't teach you this in school. She never lived in the street. She's a liar. She's a liar. And they won't touch it because they can flat out be 100% prove it. I can prove it. I do it all the time. And you won't see anybody. Well, I'm going to play a clip from Raheem Kashem, but anybody else in the United States, how come they haven't talked about this? How come they haven't brought this story up? Right? How come someone else hasn't brought this with a bigger platform? Steve Bannon. How come you haven't brought this up? I'm hoping maybe Megyn Kelly will or Tucker. But you guys, Nick, they really need to start digging into these people and why they are allowing her to continue in Congress. Because you have to understand, because she was placed there. She was placed there. This is a ruling class member of Somalia in our Congress, and our Congress is allowing her to stay there no matter how much hate she spews or how much she dislikes this country, even though we saved her ass and her family. So by 1991, here's the collapse and the flight of what happened, right? So by 1991, the Bari regime collapsed. Somalia spiraled into chaos. And rival clans rose up. They're like, we're not taking this anymore. Okay? You know, this is, so this was retribution. This was payback to the Darude elite. This was payback to Ilhan Omar's family, right? So this is when the family fled. This is when, even though she was 7 or 8, she knew, I was born under dictatorship. Bitch, you were the dictator. Your family was the dictatorship. So when they fled, they weren't just fleeing war. People, they think, refugee status. Oh, they're fleeing the civil war in Somalia. No, they were fleeing from being killed because rival clans said no more. No more. They were fleeing the reckoning that comes when a regime falls, and we let them escape. We gave them refuge. The fleeing reckoning regime. This is what we do. And now look at what's happening in Minnesota. Now look at how she treats America. Because why? Because she's an elitist. Ilhan Omar is an elitist. So again, they were just fleeing the reckoning because they were going to get murdered and killed by the people that they were murdering and killing. It was over. The gig was up. The gig goes up. So here's a fact check moment, right? So I'll say this, right? There's no proven evidence, because I have to say this, right? There's no proven evidence tying Omar's father personally to war crimes, but they say he's a war criminal. Her father is a war criminal because he was with the regime. Her family, her father was allegedly, and I have to say that allegedly, was a war criminal. They can't tie it personally, but we gave refuge to a alleged war criminal. And I think that's important because the larger truth is undeniable, because with family ties to the regime, they had every reason to run, not just from bombs. They weren't just fleeing from bombs and machetes and AK-47s and shit. They were fleeing from accountability. Okay. They were fleeing from accountability. So let's be clear. Okay. The fall of Mogadishu sent thousands running, thousands. Most were ordinary Somalis, but Omar's family had much more to fear than most. Much more to fear than most. Okay, so they didn't flee, to be clear, they didn't just flee straight to the United States, okay? So the next chapter is sort of in Kenya, right? The Omar family spent about 4 years in refugee camps because I guess it takes time to, claim your refugee status. So basically, they were hiding out. Okay, they spent about 4 years in refugee camps in the Dab or Danab, or however you said, or Yatanga, but it was near Mombasa, Kenya. And I've been to Mombasa, so I know these places, right? Very, very harsh conditions, food lines, tents, So they were hiding amongst the other refugees. This is where they were. They were hiding out in refugee camps. But again, I say that, the context matters, right? These were not the poorest of the poor people. Okay. These were not the poorest of the poor. They were hanging out with the poorest of the poor, but they still had some bank account money. They still had some stash, right? I mean, these were elites. These were the dictators that she grew up with. Yeah. You grew up under a dictatorship, and I again say your parents, your family was dictators. So these were elites who lost power. These were dictators, the families that lost power. So they went from privilege to hardship, but the hardship brought on by what? By the collapse of their own ruling class. That's what it was. That's what it was. And now you see why she has this attitude. Now you see why why she's so pompous, why she can just feel like she can say anything she want to say, because this is who she is. This is who she is, and we continue to protect her. We continue to protect the ruling class from Somalia. So this is a story of, and they're not of innocent victims. They are not innocent victims alone, but of powerful, very, very powerful families that were brought, down, low. They're trying to escape the consequences of their past ties. They were running, they were being hunted, so they were running, right? They're running, and while and you have to understand this, and this is why I say the United States have. So out of all of those thousands, and I'm gonna get to the chat in a minute and see what you guys are saying. But you have to understand, right? So Mombasa in Kenya, right? So like I said, it was a bunch of poor people running, right? Most were ordinary Somalis, but they blended in, right? They blended in. So you have to ask yourself, and wow, thousands still languished and still lived in those camps today. They still live there, right? Why was Omar's family resettled? Why her family, right? Why was it her family? Because they were being protected by us. Maybe it was the education. They were very educated. She's very educated, but the ruling classes were very educated people in Somalia. They ruled the entire country. They ruled in Kenya. And and I showed you that map, right? Let me go back and see if I can pull up that map again. But I showed you the map of her ruling family that they ruled. So this is one reason they fled into Kenya. So they had, okay, right? They understood who was ruling in Kenya. Her family was ruling in Kenya. Okay. So they left from here. This is where they ruled. This is where she grew up and lived, from Mogadishu. Okay, they actually lived here most of her life or whatever, her young life, her family. And then they escaped to Kenya because it was family there. It was family there. So the hardship probably wasn't as bad as they make it seem. Right? Yeah, they may have had to live in baseballs. What's up? What's up? VA warrior mom is in the house. So they had family. I'm sure that was taking care of them. I'm sure they probably ate better than most that was in those camps, right? I'm sure they did, because you have to understand, those people that escaped with them, they knew who they were. They knew who they were, right? And so they probably got the most food that was in the camps, right? So when all those thousands came out, right? So the very things that made them the ruling class in Somalia gave them the same ticket out. Gave them the same ticket out because they were the elite. Okay? So it gave them a ticket out. Gave them a plush ticket as a refugee to the United States. Because they were elite. They were the elite. And we tend to do that here in the United States, right? We tend to do that here in the United States. So the resettlement in the US. So, and I remember I went, man, it had to be in the late 90s, I think, maybe early 2000s. But my cousin lived in Minneapolis. He no longer lives there. He said he had to get the hell out of there. But I remember we went to go visit him, my wife and family. We went to go visit him in Minneapolis. He lived there. And I remember going to what was it? The Mall of America, right? I think it was pretty much new then, right? The Mall of America. I think at that time it was maybe one of the largest malls in the country. And I remember going there and I'm like, dude, why are all these Somalis? I mean, you can just tell some. I've gone all over the world. I've traveled all over the world, and you can distinctly tell a person from Somalia and Ethiopia pretty much from anywhere else in Africa because of their head structure, right? But anyway, I said, dude, this is Minneapolis. I thought Minneapolis, Minnesota was going to be lily white, right? You know? He said, yeah, it used to be till they started reselling all these Somalis here. I'm like, yeah, I know they look Somalian, bro. What's the deal? So, so in the mid-90s, this is when they started bringing in all the Somalians, or the late 90s, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, to Minneapolis, to Minnesota. So in the mid-90s, Ilhan Omar's family, they land in New York. And then Virginia, imagine that. Imagine that VA warrior mom in Virginia. So they went from New York to Virginia, and then by 1997 they ended up in Minneapolis. So that was their escape. They escaped. So her father came in, and this was and they had to blend in. You have to understand, they were still rich. They were still rich, but they had to blend in. So her father, who was a general, who worked in the government and in education there, part of the ruling class family, he worked jobs. They say he was taxi driving, he did postal service, right? A little step down from Somalia's ruling elite, but it was still far better than the millions that were left behind that they ruled over and probably killed a lot of the military under the regime of Syed Barre. And so I guess here's the contrast, right? You have countless nameless refugees that never left Kenya. Omar's family did. Of course, people argue that privilege, the same ruling class privilege from Somalia, opened up the door to them to America. So this is exactly what happened. So from ruling class in Somalia to political, you understand the shift here. Understand the shift here, right? They went from ruling class to Somalia to political class in America. That's the arc, right? That's the arc. Not the oppressed that was lifted up, not the oppressed lifted up, but the elites that was transplanted into new soil. They went from one elite class to another elite class transplanted. As people say, why? I see questions all the time. How is she ever allowed to be a congressman? How did she even? She's not from here, man. She hates. How did she? Because she was given that status because of her family. See, people think, that okay, people are elected, right? We still think this people are elected. No, people are selected. Ilhan Omar was selected long time before she became in Congress. She was selected by the ruling class here in the United States because, like they say, ruling class hangs out with ruling class. I guess it doesn't matter what country you're from. Guess it doesn't matter what country you're from. And someone says, can she be deported? You would think she married her. Think about it. She married her brother, and there's documentation that she married her brother to get him over here. That's immigration fraud. Why has she not been removed from Congress? See, I'm giving you all this for free. You guys need to donate or something, right? You guys get a lot of information from me. You guys need to donate. Donate. Help me out. No, but he was selected. That's why they, and it to make it look like, okay, the political process, right? You have to be elected. Who elects you as Congress? The majority of your district. Who's the majority of her district? It's all Somalians from Somalia. They put these people under her again. Ruling class from Somalia, political ruling class here in the United States. And now that's how she became a congresswoman and worth $30 million. I think she was always worth that. I think her family was always, but they played the poor game. They played the poor, the poor game, right? And I think people in Congress, I think people need to really look into this and demand that she gets removed from Congress because she was placed there, just like a lot of other people. She was selected. Yeah, they say, oh, well, she was elected by the people of her district. Yeah, who's the people of her district? Right? But it wasn't that some person was oppressed and lifted up to this position. She was transplanted and put there. So, I mean, she's only been there for a little while too, as far as politics, right? So she entered politics in 2018 in Minnesota. First at caucuses, of course, this is the rule, right? First at caucuses, then the state house, right? But it was a meteoric rise, right? After they had all the people, after they put all the people up under this elitist, now she starts to run because they understand the political process more than most Americans do in this country. The majority rules. So they bring in Somalis, they breed, they don't kill their babies in the womb. Black people, poor white people. We the only ones do that shit. So they brought in all the Somalis, starting in her family landed in 1997, so that's around the time they started bringing them in. And then a generation later, she enters politics. After they're of age and they're breeding and they're getting the majority. So she's able to get into caucus. She's able to win the state house. Then she's able to get into Congress in 2018. And people wonder, how did she ever get into Congress? Well, I just told you, but people don't understand this story. She is a transplanted elitist upper class from Somalia. So she went from, people say, she went from ruling class in Somalia to ruling class in America. Damn. Damn. It is, people say, statements. She's anti-Israel, anti-American. I can't say that I'm for Israel, but anti-American. The $30 million paid to her husband's consulting firm. I mean, just all life scandals. She is one big scandal. She's one big scandal. People say, how is she able to stay in Congress? Because she's part of the ruling class, no matter where she came from. So people ask, is this really she's living? And you hear her with the bullshit, she, living the American dream, and you'll hear her do this talk, and she doesn't give a shit about America. It's not her American dream. It was a ruling class dream all over again. She was handed this on a silver platter, on a silver spoon. She was handed a privileged elite once again holding power, but this time not in Somalia, this time in Washington, D.C., this time in America. Selected. People say, why can't they do anything about it? How come Congress? Because they're all in the damn game together. They're all in the game together. If you're not part of, like George Carlin said, is one big what he said, one big party and we not invited, right? Is one big party and you're not invited. She was part of the privileged elite in Somalia that held power, and once again, she's holding power in DC. Damn. Right? So you figure this. Okay, so just last week, what was it, right? Just last week, because of the thing she said about Charlie Kirk, I mean, what an evil bitch. And you got to throw Jasmine Crockett in there and Rashida Tlaib, all of these. And Jasmine Crockett grew up a rich white girl. Make no mistake about it. She's not hood. She's cosplaying a ghetto, a hood rat. She went to one of the most expensive day schools in the nation in Missouri. I think it was like $40,000 a year to go there. And she went to one of the most elite colleges in America. So they're educated. They're not there. They are part of the elite. And the House nearly censored her as far as Omar. This past week or this week. It was 214 to 213. And do you know that there was like 5 GOP representatives that voted not to censor her? That voted not to censor her. GOP, the ones that she fight with, the GOP, right? The ones she talk about, the ones she's despised, the one that she would probably, if they were in Somalia and she was back there, probably cut their throat. Like Corey Mills, for one. Corey Mills out of Florida voted not to censor her. I think she may have got removed off committees, but you had conservatives that voted not to censor her. Supposed Americans. And that's fine. They probably did it, because of free speech. But you know what, though? Members of Congress has a higher standard than just normal liberals, okay? Yeah, she has free speech, but members of Congress should behave at a higher level, at a higher standard than just some crazed ass liberal out on the street. She's educated. Someone says, baseball says, what were her grades? What was she pushed through? You're probably talking about Crockett. No, Crockett is smart, bro. I'm gonna tell you, Crockett is smart. She comes on and gives this act that she's ghetto, that she's hood, and she be cosplaying, bro. Crockett is very educated, very smart girl, very smart lady. So don't think she's dumb just because she talks dumb. She does that for the stupid people. She does that for she does that for the dumb people. Okay. She does that for the dumb people because she wants to get reelected. She wants to she wants to do some other stuff in politics because that's a easy life because everything is paid for by the people. And Corey Mills, I guess his wife is Muslim. So, I guess she must have told him that he wasn't going to get laid anymore if he voted if he voted to censor her. Right? So, let me continue. I hit the chat later, man. But it's just hey, Zan Morris. Hey, man, welcome to the show. Never seen you here before. I appreciate you. So they should uphold and represent their oath. They don't have morality. They should represent, live their oath, but they don't. They don't have morality. And it's sad to say. It's very sad to say, but they don't. They just don't. So anyway, I was looking at the chat, so I'm checking out. Let me go. I should be. But thank you, man. I appreciate you. Hey Jackie, I see you over there. Pure blood. I see you too. I see you guys and ladies. Appreciate you. But so I mean figures like Nancy Mace, floated the deportation rhetoric. I think she's just talking shit too. Others push petitions to strip her of her committees, her legitimacy, or whatever. But here's a fact: Omar is a U.S. citizen, a U.S. citizen since 2000. Right? She became a U.S. citizen in 2000, and she really can't. And she knows that she can't be deported under the law. That's why she's free to talk her shit now. But she should be removed from Congress. She should definitely. But you can't. But here's the thing: you can't impeach a Congress. You can't impeach a member of Congress. You have to vote them out. Or either they have to commit a crime and resign or commit a crime and be forced out, like, I guess George did, the congressman from New York or whatever, but he really didn't. He was just a liar. But under the law, she can't. So here's a political point. So we can argue all day long that she should never have been here in the first place. Right? We can argue that all day long, but bottom line is that now she's a U.S. citizen and she gets elected in. And she's not going to get elected out because why? Her entire district is Somali. We're stuck with this bitch, right? They have to find something really good. They have to find her on immigration fraud. They have to find something. But immigration fraud of her brother, I don't think she can get deported because she's a citizen. He may be able to get deported, but she should definitely be removed from Congress and cannot serve in any other capacity in the United States. They say her family fled accountability in Somalia. Now she attacks America from the inside of government. I mean, what else? There it is right there. That's the grievance, right? That's the grievance. She should never be here. Her family fled accountability in Somalia, and now she attacks America. That's the anger that everybody feels. That's the anger, I guess, that I feel. And that's why I'm doing this show on her tonight. That's why there are people in her district. Her seat is in Congress is really bitterly contested in the court of public opinion. It's contested in the court of opinion. She can say whatever she wants to say because she will never lose her seat in a re-election. There was a lady that ran against her. I forget her name. I actually had her on the show a couple years ago. I think it was 2022. I forget her name, but she ran against her. But I think she found out who she was because here it is, right? I don't think she knew the history. Man, I wish I could remember her name. But those that watched the show, remember I had a lady that ran against Ilhan Omar. Hold on. I'm going to try to look it up real quick. Hold on. I think it was 2022. 2022. Primary. I mean, it was a close primary in 2022, though. It was a close primary. So, I believe it was. I know there was a lady had her on the show, but Don Samuels ran against her though. Don Samuels came close, very close to beating her. She had 50.5%. He had 48% of the vote. I hope he come back. But there's a lady that ran against her. And let's see, I forget her name. But I think she found out who she was. And I think she was I remember she was telling me that she was starting to be threatened, right? Because she was from Somalia as well. And I remember she telling me that she started to be threatened, so she had to pull back because, she got scared. And she got scared because she was reminded of who Ilhan Omar was. she's reminded that even though she's here in America, she's still an elitist. She still rules over the people in Somalia because that's who they are. And she was the ruling clan. So she's still ruling over the people in Somalia. So that's why we can't get her out of Congress. That's why we can't, unless someone beat her, unless someone beats her. So let me ask you a question. So that's who Ilhan Omar is. I want you guys to understand that, right? And most of you out there, we can talk about it and we can get into some more stuff. I want to get into the Pam Bondi stuff, right? But I want people to understand that Ilhan Omar, they were not oppressed. Again, I want you guys to share this. You guys need to share this out. Share the show. If you're on Rumble, like it. Give me a thumbs up. Like the show. Share the show. All that stuff that you're supposed to do, right? I never say it, but you guys really need to like the show and share the show and get it out there so more people will come and learn some of this stuff because a lot of people just don't know. A lot of people just don't know. When that regime failed, they ran. They ran from justice. And now reselling in America, she's back in power. Her family ran from justice, and now she's back in power. And instead of gratitude, she delivers so much rhetoric that many hear, and I do myself, hear as hostile. We hear it as being very, very hostile because we're from America. I served this country for nearly 3 decades. And to hear her spew the rhetoric against my nation that gave her sanctuary, gave her citizenship and the law that protects her right now. And people like me that's politically and morally, she has no business to represent Americans. When her heart is actually in Somalia. She says it all the time. When I go back to Somalia, I hope I go back to Somalia and we're able to do this. And yeah, she's looking to go back and rule over Somalia. She's looking to take her daughter, because, to, I guess, up her status in Somalia. She talks about this all the time. Well, go back to Somalia because we don't want to hear you. We don't want you here anymore. You don't have the love of this country. So my question is, how long will America tolerate leaders like her that escaped accountability from other countries, from one land, only to turn on the nation that saved them in another, like here in America? When are we going to stop that? Right? So my question is to you all, and I think I know the answer. It's only been an hour, but I think I know the answer. Should elites who fled a fallen regime ever have been resettled here? Should we have accepted them or let them face justice in the countries that they're running from? And why is it that someone with ruling class, privilege, they come here and claim victimhood in America? And you heard the clip. She talked about, that she grew up in, poverty. She grew up in a dictatorship. I'm gonna play it again. Listen to this bullshit.
To be coming out of our country. I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights, while our president is spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade. It is really shocking, and it should be a wake-up call for all Americans to say this is not the country we were born in. This is not the country we believe in. This is not the country our founding fathers imagined. And this is not the country that is supported by our Constitution, our ideals, our values. And we should all collectively be out in the streets rejecting what is taking place this week.
Knowing who she is, does that make you even madder now to listen to it again? Does that make you even more furious? Knowing who she is, to listen to that bullshit again? I'm gonna play this clip from Rasheen Kasham, and you'll hear him say it too.
Let's take Ilan Omar as an example, okay? She comes from a family, and they call her a refugee who came from Somalia, right? They call her a refugee. Her family were the governing party, the Marxist Islamist government in Somalia, who were overthrown and then fled. Now, technically that makes her a refugee, but she wasn't fleeing oppression, or rather her family weren't fleeing oppression, they were fleeing justice. They were fleeing their own people, holding them to account for the dictatorship that they had established. So you have people like the Omar family, and what do? Do they come to America and see America and go, okay, this is pretty cool. They're not oppressing each other. Let's be part of this. No, they go, hey, how can we oppress them? You know, how can we bring Marxism to America? That's the thought process, and it may be a passive thought process, but it's the thought.
He's the only guy I've ever seen say this or talk about it other than myself. Raheem is the only one. Raheem is the only other one that has said anything about it. And it's just funny, you know, I found that clip popped into it was funny, you know how some things just pop into your phone once you talk about it. And I don't have Siri on, so I guess sometimes because I search a lot on my phone, right? You know, for clips for the show. And then that pops up. I'm like, well, damn, that's perfect. This is exactly what I'm talking about today, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about. And then Raheem's clip, I mean, just pops up out of nowhere. Amazing how that happens. Amazing how that happens. Corey Mill got married in a mosque. I mean, dude, does that make you furious? Does that make you? I mean, look at what's going on, and yeah, we are definitely not a democracy. Look, I mean, and you know, they spew that, right? I mean, but I mean, that clip, I mean, it just like you're so fake, right? You're so fake. You don't even know what this country is founded on. You came from a dictatorship. And she wasn't even born here. She's so fake. Just, I mean, but hey, but that's America, though, right? That's America. Okay, let's get to some others. I mean, you know, I really want to get to. I want to get to Pam Biden. So I'm going to play a clip from my friend Suni Blanks. Right. First of all, I'm going to ask you all a question. I have to ask you all a question first. Do you agree with the conservatives? Do you agree with what Pam Bondi said? They say she went back and clarified, well, I didn't mean that, but yeah, we all know she did, right? So there's a clip from my friend Suni Blanks. Thank you, Suni. Courtesy of Suni Blanks. The clip is all over, but I love my girl, so I'm gonna play it for you. I'm gonna get into some stuff about Candace and Charlie, and you know, Candace dropped the receipts on them, you know, and I mean, people like, what was it, Eric Bowling, who was on Dave Rubin's show. Dave Rubin's show came out against Candace, say she was lying. And then Candace dropped receipts. She was with Charlie Kirk last year on tour. He say, oh, she hadn't been around for 2 or 3 years. Dude, man, all these people. So anyway, all right, I'm gonna play this first.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
The very person that you're virtue signaling for would be against this move that you're making in his honor. He says it right here. Hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. Pay attention to what these people do in Charlie Kirk's name. Pay attention. Let me know what you think in the comment section below.
I mean, and that's just the real of it. That's just real. If these people are, everybody's, it was it Rahm Emanuel that said never let a whatever go to waste, a situation go to waste or whatever. The exact words slipped my memory, but never let a crisis go to waste is what he said. Actually, I remember. Seems like the conservatives, people that are conservatives, are doing the same thing. This is a major crisis here in the United States. I mean, the thought crimes, they're already one. I showed you, last week where Congress had passed a bill or a resolution or, about you can't get money from the government if you boycott in Israel. There's a law and blah, 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 right? They're not letting the crisis go to waste either, I don't think. Because what Pam Bondi said was total bullshit.
That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that. But Sean,
Who is the AG of the United States to tell businesses that who they should hire and who they should employ? That's not the business of the AG. That's not the business of the United States government. That's just not. I mean, I'm gonna play this clip from Matt Gaetz too, and because there's a lot of controversy on who killed Charlie, and there's a lot of stuff, man. Just so much stuff and so much BS. You had the text between the lovers or whatever, totally fed. I call that out, totally fed. What I have here too, I have the indictment, right? I have the indictment for Tyler James Robinson. And in this indictment, I might read this before I play the Matt Gaetz thing, because but it's in people on it, and I think it was a international foul play by a certain country that we're pretty much not allowed to talk about, but I do it anyway. But I pretty much think that Israel had something to do with it, because Charlie was coming out hard against them. The donors, you follow the donor money. Candace, is mentioned it coming out. People started attacking her and Tucker and all of these things. And I understand pressure from the Jewish lobby. I understand pressure from the Jewish people. I'll tell you guys, that's this story. And I still have the text messages on my phone to prove it. And my friend, if she's listening, Shani, who was my public affairs officer at the time I was running for Congress, she's from Israel. She's Israeli. And I had her go with me because she speak in Hebrew. And but I had said something on the campaign trail. Okay, so this is what I said. So it's around the time of COVID, right? I always have stories. But this is the time of COVID and the football players, right? Some football players, athletes didn't, but this was around football time. And It was around the time where they had the football players. And I was really big. I was really against the jab. Still am. Always have been. It's not a secret. And so the way that they were doing us, right? The unvaxxed, you guys know how they treated us. We couldn't go to restaurants and eat. If you didn't show your vaccine card, they threw you out, right? Just all of this Nazi shit. All this total Nazi stuff, right? And so the football players, they had to wear a different color wristband or a different type of color, something around their wrist, but it's a wristband type of thing to designate if you took the jab or if you didn't take the jab, right? And I was like, well, damn, that's like 1936 Germany, making the Jewish people, wear the scarlet letter, right? I'm like marking them, right? And so I said that, and the Jewish lobby called me, the rich dude, and for you people that live in Virginia and Virginia Beach, especially, right? The Sandler Center, they're owned by the Sandlers, really rich Jewish lobby. And Art Sandler is one of them. And I'm going to say his name because I have text messages to back me up. But I was endorsed by Michelle Bachmann, right? I was just endorsed by Michelle Bachmann. That would have been a big one. And then this happened, and the Jewish lobby called her and I guess they threatened her with money. I guess they you know, threatened her somehow, threatened to pull funding for her trips or whatever, right? After she had endorsed me. And so then she pulled her endorsement because I had said that. And so they wanted to have a talk with me. The Jewish lobby of Virginia Beach, the Art Sandler and from the Sandler family. And so I went and met with them. Me and Shani, my girl, we went and met with them. And I mean, I have I have text messages to prove what happened in the conversation after that. And what it was is that, I mean, this is what he told me. This is what they believe. You can't compare anything to the Holocaust ever. That's forbidden. And if you do, you upset a bunch of Jewish people because that's the worst thing that ever happened to them. I'm like, well, shit, I was bringing awareness to what happened prior to the 6 million or whatever, however many there's controversy there, whatever, million people getting killed, So I wasn't comparing it to the Holocaust. I was comparing what was going on to pre-Holocaust. But I was told you cannot compare anything, and I need to give a public apology. This is what they were telling me. This is what they were telling me. I need to give a public. He texted me, "Are you gonna apologize?" I'm like, "No, I don't believe I need to apologize for anything. If I hurt you," and I told them in the meeting. I mean, it was me, Shani, and it was like the biggest Jewish people, I guess, Jewish people in Virginia Beach. I mean, literally, I thought it was going to be myself and Art, right? Or myself and maybe a couple of. When we went in there was like 15 people. There was like 15 people in there, all grilling, trying to grill me, about apologizing and how I hurt their feelings and, how I did a disservice to the Jewish people in the Holocaust and the people that were killed. And I'm like, well, shit, bro. I'm like, hell, more Africans died in the slave trade, bro. You like talking to the wrong dude if you're looking for sympathy. you know, dude, do you see my face, bruh? If you're looking for sympathy, you're not about to get that here. You're not about to get that here. Hey, if I hurt your feelings for what I said, I apologize for hurting your feelings, but what I said was pretty accurate. And guess what? It was my free speech, right? But they demanded an apology, which I never gave, and I wasn't, because there was nothing for me to apologize for. But I understand. So just imagine if I would have taken money from them, because Michelle Bachmann, she felt the pressure right away. They called her because it was in the paper, and everything. She endorsed me with, everything, right? They called and she immediately pulled her endorsement back. That's how much pressure they could put on you. So imagine, especially if they're giving you money. So imagine the pressure, the true pressure, because I felt it, and I wasn't even getting money from them. They didn't fund my campaign. They weren't giving me no donations. They're pretty much Democrats, right? Anyway, so I wasn't getting any funding for them, so I felt no pressure, right? Imagine if I was getting funding. Imagine if I was getting money from them. Imagine if I was getting money from them. The pressure I would felt. So I can imagine the pressure that Charlie felt, because he had donors because of Tucker Carlson, because of Dave Smith, because of Candace Owens, because of people he had at his AmFest and speaking at his AmFest, and he defied them. He defied them. And they was coming out to, hey, man, hey, Tucker's going to be at my next one too. So that was one thing about Charlie. Charlie brought in everyone to speak, no matter if he agreed with you, if he disagreed with you. He let you speak. I can imagine millions. They were pulling millions of dollars from TPUSA. They were, attacking him. They were calling him anti-Semite, had all these donors. They had all of this stuff. I really hope that someone released the text messages that's on Charlie's phone. I hope his wife, Erica, if she's not afraid, I understand she may be, but to release those text messages from the people that was really, because there's a bunch of lies going out, because they're scared, right? I hope she has his phone, and I hope that she is brave enough, but she may not be. She has children, to release those text. Give them to Candace. Let Candace do it. She ain't scared. To release those text messages that Charlie was getting from these people that was pressuring him about it. I can imagine. You're talking millions of dollars. I mean, there's something that say Netanyahu offered him 150 million. When you're talking that much money, I can understand the pressure this man was under. Because the lobby tried to pressure me and they wasn't giving me shit. They weren't giving me anything. But got the affidavit, and I read through it, and it's just so much stuff in here, man. I mean, everything. I mean, they're charging him with everything under the sun. And you guys know that this guy didn't pull the trigger, right? You guys do. You guys do know that, right? You guys do know that this guy did not pull that trigger. Okay? First of all. Yeah, and Jackie says we're gonna have a Patriot Act 2.0. They got victim target. I mean, listen, I'm going to read some of these things. I mean, they are making sure this guy don't get off, but they're going to let him off because Cash pretty much let him off. Cash said that, yeah, we're looking, there's evidence that there may be some other people involved, right? So they got count 1, aggravated murder. It's a capital felony. You go after death. And Bondi said yesterday, he's not getting out of jail. If they're going to charge him with state crimes, and then we're still deciding if we're going to charge him with federal crimes. This is what Bondi is saying. This is what Bondi is saying, right? And so, I'm trying to keep this out of the screen. Victim targeting enhancement, violent offense committed in the presence of a child. I heard Charlie Kirk's kids were not there. So maybe Maybe they're talking about other children in the audience because I heard Charlie Kirk's wife or his children were not there. The source I got that from is pretty reliable. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but I heard that he did not confess. Susan, he did not confess. They said that he turned himself in. His father, his dad turned him in. He did not confess, and he is not cooperating. He is not cooperating with the feds. So he did not confess. So that's a lie. If they're saying that's a lie. He never confessed. And I think this is part of this charade is part of what's going to get him off. So felony count 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury. Victim targeting enhancement again. Violence offense committed. They're going again with count 2. Okay. Presence of a child. Obstruction of justice. They say Tyler he concealed. Here's the obstruction of justice charge. Tyler James Robinson with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of any person regarding conduct that constitutes a criminal offense. Concealed or removed the firearm used to shoot Charlie Kirk. And the conduct that constitutes an offense would be a capital felony. So obstruction of justice because they say he removed the gun. Obstruction of justice with the intent to delay or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction. Say he destroyed, concealed, or removed the clothing he wore during the shooting. But then they where could he have put the clothes? Right? Where did he put the clothes? He left the gun. So he changed clothes. You guys have to understand this. How crazy this is. How crazy. So he went to the woods. He changed clothes, left the gun, took the clothes, but left the gun. Left the gun with the fingerprints, right? And he left the note. Said, "Oh, I left my fingerprints on the gun." I swear, I'm gonna get to reading this stuff. So, tampering with a witness. Tampering with the witness. He attempted to induce or otherwise cause his roommate to withhold testimony, information, a document, or an item. Now you got to understand this, right? Freaking Cash. They have to understand this, right? Cash said that he left a note for the roommate, right? But the note was destroyed. It was a photocopy of something, but the original note didn't exist anymore. So that was count 5. Count 6, tampering with the witness. It's the same shit. Count violent offense committed in the presence of a child. Same thing. They keep going that over and over and over. They keep, every count, they just, they charge with a class A misdemeanor, a felony, blah, blah, blah. Victim targeting enhancement. He said James Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because of Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. So they call that victim targeting. Okay, so here's the probable cause statement, right? Brian Davis of the Utah State Bureau of Investigations having probable cause to believe that the defendant committed the above listed offenses, submitted the following evidence in support of filing this information. On September 10th, 2025, at approximately 12:23 p.m., in all these timelines, man, they just do some crazy stuff on these timelines, right? Charlie Kirk was shot and killed while speaking to a large crowd. They had to put that in there, right? On campus of Utah Valley. Now, why had to be? Of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, counts 1 and 2. Police found the suspected murder weapon, a bolt-action .30-06 rifle nearby. Now, They say the bullet stayed in Charlie Kirk's neck. This is what they're saying now. A 30-06. I know for a fact a 30-06 from 200 yards will shoot and go straight through you, especially when you hit to the neck. I'm actually surprised that he didn't have that it didn't like take half of his neck off, to be honest. But it says, I mean, this is what they're saying now, right? Because people saying, exit wound, entry wound, where's the bullet, and then the doctor or the guy, supposedly the guy that did the autopsy is saying he is greatly surprised that the bullet didn't go all the way through and go and kill somebody else. Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, man, I'm surprised nobody else got shot. But he says that a 30-06 bullet, because this is what they say now. Now they can't go back. This is what they can't. They can't go back and recreate and correct this to a small caliber weapon. Some people are saying that it was a guy in front of him. Some people are saying it was a guy behind him. Some people are saying, it was shot from this fucking some kind of gun, but it was anything other than a 30-06. They said it was at close range. So anyway, they can't go back because this is in the indictment. Do you know that if they went back and said that it was a smaller caliber bullet, I want to see the bullet. I want to see the bullet that the coroner took out of Charlie Kirk's neck. He said that because of his bone structure and the structure of his neck, the bullet did not leave Charlie Kirk's body. It was only an entrance wound. It did not leave his body. This is what they're saying now. A 30-06 bullet stayed in Charlie Kirk's neck. I mean, that's enough to get this guy off really right here, to be honest. If it was I want to see the bullet. They have to produce a bullet, and they'll probably go fire a 30-06 and dig it out of a wall or something or whatever. But they have to find a bullet that match. So they said over the next approximately 33 guys, there's a 33, right? You guys understand if you know the masonry and all that cult shit, right? 33 hours. And there's a lot of videos out now. Candace dropped some videos. Dude was chilling in like Dairy Queen, yo. He was he was in Dairy Queen with the same shirt on that he wore onto campus. So he was chilling. He wasn't worried about nothing. This was around 6:30 p.m. So he was at Dairy Queen up the street, right? But the text messages don't match the Dairy Queen claim because that was at 6:30. So according to these like text messages, which don't have no timestamps, it would have to be around that time frame. But we're gonna get to that. Okay, conducted a manhunt for the shooter until the evening of September 11th. This, right? I still want them to talk about that plane a little more, but I guess the guy came out and said, oh, no, I can't do it. But allegedly, I have to say allegedly around here. So on September 11th, when Tyler James Robinson surrendered to police at the Washington County Sheriff's Office, DNA consistent with Robinson was found on the rifle's trigger. He may have shot the gun before it was his granddad's thing, maybe. Or he may have just been carrying it. But anyway, after shooting Mr. Kirk, Robinson hid the gun, count 3, discarded the clothing he wore when he fired the rifle, count 4, and told his lover roommate to delete incriminating messages, count 5, and not to talk to police, count 6. Children were present at the time of the shooting, count 7. So the shooting. Okay, they talk about the shooting, and they just. I mean, they. Just read it, man. It's just Turning Point USA, a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk. Why did they have to say all of that? Why did they have to say all of that? Organized a public outdoor event to be held at noon on September 10th, 2025 at UVU. The event was the event was the first in a series of similar events to be held at college campuses nationwide. Why did they have to include that? For sensationalism. For sensationalism. I'm trying to let me see something here. No, that's not gonna work either. Oh, there's a pickaxe one. I'm just looking. I'm sorry. All right. So I know people. Yeah. Hold up. Okay, so then approximately at noon, Mr. Kirk seated himself under a portable canopy behind a table and a microphone. He began speaking to the crowd and fielding questions from attendees. A format Mr. Kirk commonly used at his events. Mr. Kirk allowed his questioners to approach a microphone positioned directly in front of him. Mr. Kirk's team members were very close to him on his right and his left, as well as some behind his canopy and others at various close locations behind him. It's a movie script. This is a movie script, man. They're gonna make a movie. They're gonna make a movie about this, right? And the large crowd surrounded Mr. Kirk on three sides. Temporary metal fencing separated the attendees from Mr. Kirk by only a matter of feet. Directly above and behind Mr. Kirk was the UVU Hall of Flags, an indoor walkway spanning several hundred feet with floor to ceiling glass windows which overlooked the plaza where Mr. Kirk was seated. People were in the walkway at the time of the shooting. This is a movie script. This is somebody submitting a movie script. Approximately 15 minutes into the event, Mr. Kirk was answering a question about mass shootings by transgender individuals when a gunshot rang out. Stop it. Stop it. Let's go back. No, you mischaracterized it. He was asking about transgender individuals and gang violence. You missed that. You missed that. You didn't put the gang violence in there because that's when he got shot when he said in gang violence. Then a gunshot rang out. The bullet struck Mr. Kirk in the neck. Now, here's what they can't say because people say, oh, it hit the vest and then bounced into his neck. If a 30-06 would have hit his vest, it would have went through, by the way. But they came out. This is the indictment. It struck Mr. Kirk in the neck. He slumped to the ground almost immediately. The bullet's trajectory passed closely to several other individuals besides Mr. Kirk, including the questioner, including the questioner who was standing directly in front of Mr. Kirk. Children were visible near Mr. Kirk's stage when he was shot. Mr. Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was declared deceased. The medical examiner's report is pending. I want to see that. I really want to see that. The UVU surveillance investigation. At the moment of the shot, a UVU police officer was watching the crowd from an elevated vantage point. As soon as he heard the shot, he began to scan the area for threats. Believing the shot came from a rifle because of his sound, he looked for potential sniper positions. He noted a roof approximately 160 yards away from Mr. Kirk as a potential shooting position and rushed there to look for evidence. There was actually 3 roofs around there, not just one. There's 3 roofs around there that shot could have come from. But I guess from the noise. The suspected shooting position is adjacent to an open, publicly accessible walkway. To access you guys see how they're like framing this, right? To access the suspected location, a person must climb over. Now listen to this, right? must climb over a railing and then drop to the roof only slightly below. You guys caught that, right? To access the suspected location, a person must climb over a railing and then drop to the roof only slightly below. The UVU officer climbed over the railing and down onto the roof. He then walked to the suspected shooting position and confirmed a clear shooting corridor between the position and Mr. Kirk's seat. He also noticed markings in the gravel rooftop consistent with a sniper having lain on the roof. Impressions in the gravel potentially left by the elbows, knees, and feet of a person in a prone shooting position. So to get to that shooting position, he had to climb over a railing and drop to the roof. So how the hell did he get out? That's my question. How the hell did he not go back the same way he came? Right? That's my question. Did he go back the same way he came? Because if he had to, he spent a lot of damn time up on that roof, only 160 yards away. He spent a lot of time on that roof, and they say, "Oh, he took the gun apart because there was a screwdriver." Oh, screwdriver left. Okay, police reviewed surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it recorded an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing from the public walkway and drop onto the roof at approximately 12:15. Although the individual moved out of the camera's view, there are a bunch of cameras like on the roof, right? And those CCTV cameras that was up on the roof should have got. How come there's no footage of that? Each roof has a camera on it. None of you don't have no up close footage of the guy. Only the grainy footage of him running from far away from somebody's cell phone. Although the individual moved out of the camera's view for a short time, the camera again captured the individual running across the roof and then low crawling to the area the UVU officer recognized as where the suspect sniper had dropped into a prone shooting position. After a short time, which matches the known time of the shot, the individual arose and ran across the roof to the northeast. Okay, so he ran across. He didn't go back the way he came, I guess, right? This discovery led to an intensive review of UVU surveillance recordings to attempt to track and identify the suspect. Surveillance revealed the following. At approximately 11:51 a.m., the suspect entered campus from the north. He is seen wearing a black shirt with an American flag. This is the guy that they got with the baseball. They doesn't look like the guy that they have right now, right? This is the guy, the other picture that you saw. How come there's no video of that guy? Okay, so here's that we've only seen a still shot, a picture, AI enhanced or whatever, of a guy in a stairwell, right? With a shirt, with a black shirt, American flag, and a hat with sunglasses, right? How come there's no video of that dude? How come there's there's cameras all over the university. There's cameras everywhere in the stairwell, why is there no video of that guy? Why is there no video of that guy? So, so throughout the surveillance, the suspect kept his head down and rarely raises his head enough to get a clear image of his face. As he proceeds across the campus, he's seen walking with an unusual gait. The suspect walks with very little bending in his right leg, consistent with a rifle being in his pants. They just knew that, right? It's consistent. They don't know if the dude had a prosthetic or not. It's consistent with a rifle being hidden in his pants. This dude is gonna walk. I mean, literally, if this guy has a good attorney, which he probably this guy should walk because this guy did not shoot Charlie Kirk. This unusual gait continues until the suspect is seen crossing the railing off the open walkway and onto the roof, where he leaves the camera's view. A later camera captures the suspect as he runs across the roof to the suspected shooting position. Immediately after the shot was fired, a camera captures the suspect running across the roof carrying an item whose shape is consistent with the rifle. The suspect is not, they don't see the rifle, right? No rifle. The suspect is then seen climbing down from the roof. He appears to drop the item he was carrying as he hits the ground in a controlled fall. He then picks up the item and runs towards the northeast of the campus. Okay, expanded crime scene observations, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So they found the rifle. Okay, law enforcement officers follow the suspect's escape path to the northeast end of campus, where they believe the suspect left campus and entered a wooded area. In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt action rifle wrapped in a towel. No clothes, but a rifle wrapped in a towel. The rifle contained one spent round and 3 unspent rounds. So what they're saying in the bolt action, so the guy didn't eject the round that was in the chamber conveniently, right? He left it in the chamber. This is consistent with facts officers found at the time. No shell cases were found on the roof, suggesting a bolt action rather than an auto-loading weapon, and only a single round was fired. Each round, and conveniently, and I mean, this is falling apart too, right? Each round in the rifle contained an etched inscription. I want to see those. Did they take pictures of those? Fired cartridge, no Tice's bulge, OWO, what's this? So this is everything that was, hey, fascist, catch. Oh, Bella Child, Bella Child, Bella Child, Bella Child. How did they get all that written on those? They're only about that. I can go get you a 30-yard cartridge, man. It's about that. If you read this, you are gay, laugh my ass off. So this was etched on the casing of a 30-yard 6-round that's about yay long. I actually have a 30-yard 6. I should go grab a cartridge and let you see how preposterous that this is. The rifle, ammunition rounds, and towel were sent for forensic processing. DNA consistent with Robinson's were found on the trigger and other parts of the rifle. The fired cartridge casing, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and the towel. Law enforcement was unable to immediately locate the shooter, so they published photos of the shooter, blah, blah, blah. All right, so then it goes into September 11th and talking about the mom and the roommate, and I want to get to the exchange. On September 10th, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you're doing and look under my keyboard." The roommate looked, now this is what they're saying. The roommate looked, how do they know, right? I guess the roommate said it, right? It's supposed to be a trans. The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, I guess the roommate must have told them this, right? Or maybe this is the script, and that's what's going to be in the movie. I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. Okay, so that's improper English, right? I had the opportunity, and I'm going to take it. Not I have the opportunity, and I'm going to take it. Or I had the opportunity, and I did it, right? And I did it. And so police found, I get this? Police found a photograph. So this was, so you got to understand that, I guess, it really doesn't fit the timeline, right? So the roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, now if he wrote this note previously and stuck it on the keyboard, it may have should have read, hey, I have this opportunity, to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm gonna do it. I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm gonna do it. But the police found a note, a photograph of this note. So this is what Cash was saying, right? This is what the FBI director is saying, right? We have a note, but it's not the original note. It's a photograph of the note. Motherfucker, you don't have the note. You don't even have the note. You have a photograph. Anybody could have made this note, took a photograph and stuck it on the computer or whatever. You don't even have the original note. You have a photograph of the note, right? Did Cash, do I have that? Oh, let me look. Do I have Cash saying that stupid shit? Hold on, man. I'm like, I mean, it's really, really bizarre, right? I don't think I have Cash saying that. I don't know, but it's really bizarre. But anyway, I don't have it. I know. I wish I had it. Oh my gosh. So Cash is like, I don't have it, but we have it. FBI, a bunch of shit. So, but anyway, and I'm gonna play this Matt Gaetz thing on Charlie maybe. But anyway, I might get to it next week. But this is funny. I just feel this is funny. Okay, so the following text exchange took place, and I know you all must have heard all this, but I just think this is hilarious, right? The following text exchange took place, and if you've heard, if you haven't heard it, hey man, just bear with me, man. Right? Just bear with me, because this is just hilarious. Yeah, no. I mean, and if you guys, I mean, you saw the gun 30-06. Half of it would have been sticking out of his pants. It's a long rifle. Whether they're trying to say, oh well, he may have had a short barrel on it, and then they found the rifle with the scope backwards and all of it. It was just, okay. So after reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right?" Robinson, I'm still okay, my love. I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer. Shouldn't be long. You know this is AI, right? You know this is AI, right? Somebody fucked up and told AI to write a conversation about this between two 20-year-olds, right? Right? That's what they should have said, right? But I think they said something like, write a conversation from two people in the 20s. And this is what it sounds like. It totally sounds like this is from the 20s, not two 22-year-olds of today. Do you know how two 22-year-olds talk? Does this sound like 222 or 220, whatever, any modern day texting? They text all the time. And did you know that there's no digital footprint of this guy? He's texting. Here's what makes zero sense too, right? He's texting. Supposedly they have texting. Hey, America, for my brother's keeper. What's up, brother? And so he's texting, but he has no digital footprint. What 22-year-old do you know that has a zero digital footprint? Are you kidding me? But this guy, Tyler Robinson, they swiped it or whatever, cleared it. He has no digital footprint except supposedly on Discord, where he tells everything on Discord, where he admits everything on Discord. Supposedly, he admitted on Discord, right? So he says, shouldn't be long until I come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. That shit sound like some shit from Gunsmoke. This is this is supposed to be the text or the roommate. You weren't the one who did it, right? Robinson, I am. I'm sorry. Roommate, I thought they caught the person. Now you have to understand this time. I mean, there's no time on this. There's no timestamp on any of these texts. So you sort of got to sort of figure out, after Charlie got shot in the manhunt. So he's texting it. So there's a manhunt for this guy now, and he's sitting, he's watching, apparently, he's like, when he said, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude. So that had to be shortly right after, right? Okay. They then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point. This either this is AI or these are some stupid ass feds, man. And somebody pointed out that one of them is a female. One of them is a female by something, and I'll get to it, by something that they said here in this supposed text operation or this text exchange. I had planned to grab my rifle from the drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Roommate, why? Robinson, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Roommate, how long have you been planning this? Robinson, a bit over a week, I believe. He believes, right? He's only been planning this for a week, right? Normally when you're going to shoot somebody, you got an event, big thing, you planning your escape, you planning the shot, you planning on how to get there, you're surveilling. So he says, a bit over a week, I believe. Didn't get close to it, but there's a squad car parked right by it. A squad, who says squad car? Most 22-year-olds, 20-year-olds, what we say, the police, a police car. Who used a squad car? The feds, the police. People that surround it, they call it a squad car. Other people call it a police car. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. Swept. Who says that? Swept the spot. Who said that? Police, feds, law enforcement. They do that. I think they already swept that spot. Do 20 and 22-year-olds talk like that? Right? I think they have already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. Robinson, no. So that was nothing from nothing else from the roommate after that is on here. Robinson, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. So this is what he's worried about. He's worried about what his daddy think after he didn't just killed somebody, right? About the rifle. I don't know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits, but he didn't leave the outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the fuck would I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving the bullets? Okay, so they have to get everything in, right? Remember how I was engraving the bullets? The fucking messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge UWU on Fox New, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm gonna have to leave it, and it really fucking sucks. This is judging from today. I say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. Robinson, delete this exchange. My dad wants photos of the rifle. So this has to be later in the day, right? Because his dad is now texting him. He says, Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it's very unique. He's calling me right now. I'm not answering. Since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. So they had to throw the MAGA in there, right? I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. One of my neighbors here. So this has to be the next day because they say he turned himself in on the 11th, right? So these text messages has to be the next day. I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. You are all I worry about, love. I'm much more worried. Then the roommate finally chimes in. I'm much more worried about you. Don't talk to the media, please. This is Robinson. Don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer. Stay silent. I'm not going to get into the rest of it, but that's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. So there we are. And that's where, and so we really don't even know. We really don't know who shot Charlie Kirk, because this is some bullshit. So I hope you got a laugh off of that. It's not funny that Charlie got caught, but it's funny that they think they think we are stupid. They think we are stupid. And it's unbelievable how they think so. And now there's something out going around, and I'm going to wrap up the show here in a minute. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do any music. I don't think it's going to come through. But there's threats out there now. They're coming out with now, oh, there are terrorists around. And Laura Loomer put it out, who I think is a little bit, on the Mossad side. But it's all coming out. Oh, there's Islamic terrorists running around. Al Qaeda is in the United States. They're going to be attacking hospitals, and they're going to be dressed up as first responders and police. They've been buying these uniforms, and so they're going to attack, and then they're going to attack when the real first responders show up. They're going to attack them and people. So, all I can say is keep your head on a swivel, man. All of this stuff. I mean, because their plan is falling to pieces. And the only thing left they have is to attack America. We've been saying this for months on the Radical Republican Live show. They've been in the country. They've been in the country. They've just been waiting for the time to activate the cells. They're just waiting to activate the cells. And now, since they're caught, and they know they're caught, and Netanyahu is out here working overtime, telling people he didn't do it and Israel didn't do it and all of this stuff, and blaming it on Islamic terrorists, right? He threw that out there, blames on Islamic terrorists. Now this threat about Islamic terrorists in the country come out. It's so clockwork, so playbook, right? And I just hope you all not falling for it. I hope you all continue to request the truth, And Susan says, I guess we'll never know. And we probably won't. And that guy that's in prison, I don't know, that they have right now, if he makes it to trial, which I don't think he will, and then they'll just close the case. I mean, he'll be suicided, he'll be killed. They'll put him in population, they'll have a Fed or somebody in there, they'll kill him. And his dad sacrificed him. I mean, that would be it. His dad put him up for sacrifice. His mom put him up for sacrifice. So I check you all out next week. I promise I'm gonna have this music because I know you guys enjoy the tunes. But I'm gonna switch computers back next week so we can make sure we are able to jam the tunes a little bit on the way out the door and on the way in. So you guys take care, and I see you next week, and hopefully we'll have Laura with us next week, Laura Worley, and we talk about MKUltra, because some of this may be MKUltra. It sounds like MKUltra. Sounds like a movie. So you guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Same time, same place next week. The Radical Republicans Live show. I love y'all. Y'all be safe. All right. Peace.